Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. There are a couple more people that are trickling in, but we'll get started so long since it is 11 o'clock now, and they'll just join in as we go. But the webinar is being recorded, so everyone can go and rewatch it again afterwards, so that shouldn't be a problem. But thank you so much for joining us today. We are really excited to be talking about a topic that is very close to our hearts, which is municipal accounts and the municipalities. And today we've got Stratafin and Confiance Administrative Solutions with us. So Confiance is a subsidiary of Stratafin. So we're working hand in hand on municipal accounts and everything municipality. So today we're going to be talking about how to deal with your municipal account issues in your community scheme. And I know we've been getting tons of questions in since we posted this webinar, where people have been saying that they're having, so many issues with their municipal accounts, incorrect tariffs that are being charged, that kind of thing. So we're hoping that we can give a little bit of insight today as to how to work around those and how to deal with them. So if you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to put them into the chat box or into the Q&A section. And if we have time, we will go through them during the webinar today. If not, we will try our best to answer them and then to send them through to you after the fact. Okay, great. So I think let's get straight into it. Our speakers today. First up, we've got Hendrik Brits. He is the head of operations at Confiance Administrative Solutions. So Hendrik holds a BCom law degree and has been involved with local municipalities for over 20 years, working as a town secretary and manager for corporate services within various municipalities. Hendrik served as the town secretary for Heidelberg Municipality and as executive manager for corporate services for Lesedi Municipality. During his time at the municipalities, he oversaw council and mayoral committee secretariat, legal departments, HR, IT, public facilities, secretariat of municipal public accounts committee, the tender committee, and various standing committees. And as such, he has an in-depth knowledge of their processes and legislation governing local government. We've also got Hein Bredenkamp with us today. He is the head of municipal advisory services at Confiance Administrative Solutions. Hein comes with an extensive legal background as well as a municipal career spanning over 30 years. Hein holds a B Juris degree and was head of legal at Merifong Municipality for over 25 years. As an experienced senior manager within various municipalities, Hein is well versed in the municipal maze. He has a real understanding of the legal basis in which municipalities must operate, as well as which legislation and internal policies they must comply with. And we've got our resident webinar specialist, Willie Roos, here today. He is the CEO of Stratafin, and Willie has practiced as a property attorney for over 20 years. He was involved in sectional title management for over 8 years, where he dealt with various municipal rules and interacted extensively with the local municipalities. And as you know, Willie started Stratafin in 2014 with the goal of assisting bodies corporate with their funding without catching them in a debt trap. Stratafin strives to be a fair and equitable money provider for the sectional title industry. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Hein, Willie and Hendrik as they take us through everything. Hein, do you want to start off with us?
Good morning all. Thank you very much, Danielle. Yeah, good morning to everyone and thank you for joining the webinar. We hope that we will enlighten you a bit on what to look out for on your municipal account statement on a monthly basis. Sometimes we just file these things, see what we have to pay and make sure that we pay it, but there is some information on this account that we really need to look at. I think if we look at the general basis, let's first make sure that your scheme name, if it is for a scheme or your personal name, that is correct, that the date is correct, which month is this account for. Your addresses on the account, is this correct? Your physical address, is there a postal address? How does this account reach you? Then a very important thing that we need to look at is the type of consumer. Are you a private consumer? Is this a sectional title complex? Is it a business or commercial consumer? And this goes hand in hand with the zoning of the property. Remember, municipalities zone our properties on different zones. Example, private, or then business, commercial. And the reason for this is that each category or each zoning, they are charged different tariffs by the municipality. And if your initial consumer type is not correctly stated or is not correctly charged by the municipality, this could be the start of some of your problems. A very important thing to check is the valuation of your property. That determines your rates and taxes. Rates and taxes for the sectional title complexes from the initiation or when the new Local Government Municipal Rates Act came into being, the rates and taxes are charged directly to the owner. Just make sure that that is indeed happening, that there's not a dual charge in type and what type of consumer you are. And also make sure on this that your payment is reflected correctly.
Hein, I just want to say here, at the end of this webinar, we are going to make available a free resource, a checklist with some information on there that can be utilized on all the stuff that needs to be checked and needs to be followed up to make sure that that account is correct. So sorry I jumped in there, but I just thought, let me just get some advice out there or the resources out there, because we know that is always helpful for people.
Thank you, Willie. Yes, that will definitely assist everyone. If there's just a tick list, go through it on a monthly basis, make sure that everything is actually in order. When we look at our electricity reading, we know that some of the complexes in the city of Joburg area get two accounts, one for the electricity account and then another account for sewer. And so make sure that on your electricity account, first thing to check is the reading, is it the actual reading or is it the estimated reading? It's important because estimates eventually goes haywire, goes wrong, and then there's huge discrepancies. If it is an estimate, find out why is this estimation being done. Is your meters accessible? Or is it just a question of that the meter reading did not take place? And keep proper track and proper note, a photographic evidence of what a meter at a specific date, what the reading is very important to check that. And make sure that you're, Willie?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to jump in here. Sorry, I don't want to go all over you, but I think when we were discussing what we're going to share, we actually had a very long discussion about estimates and the responsibility of the council to actually take real readings, and that obligation does not fall on a consumer, but that obligation is actually the obligation in terms of our legislation on the municipality. And we were also discussing some case law where readings were never taken and they were done as estimates. And at the end of the day, after many years, the council actually did do readings. In this specific instance, the owner owed much more than the estimates, and his account, so his consumption, electricity consumption, was far more than the estimate, and the municipality wanted to sue him for that, and successful on appeal. The court found that because the council did not follow its obligations, that debt has prescribed, and they could not sue that. So it's very important that people need to check those readings and make sure that they are actual readings and not pure estimates, which we find in many cases is the problem.
Yes, thanks, Willie. That is actually correct. That the classic case is in Ekurhuleni, where that happened. Municipalities then revise their tariffs on an annual basis, and each municipality has got their own tariff. On every municipality, tariffs differ. So, electricity-wise, some municipalities have got a winter tariff and a summer tariff, which consumers can apply to if they want to be on the winter tariff and summer tariff, or just on the general tariff that is basically a straight tariff throughout the year. And some of the issues then happen that in winter, there is a serious charge that comes in, and you find that the municipality, you think the municipality is overcharging you, but your consumption in winter is actually high. Electricity also goes on a sliding scale, depending on the consumption. So the higher your consumption, the higher the tariff that is being charged. How will you find your tariff? It is indicated on the account that you receive from the municipality, but you will also need to check if that tariff is actually the correct charge that is being charged. That you can find out from your municipality on their website, or you can request the information. It is possible that they might charge you. This information is also available on the government gazettes. Each municipality must promulgate their tariffs in the provincial gazette. So this is how you will know that the municipality is charging the right tariff. And it is important to make sure. This is sometimes a warrant that you enter into when you start looking at municipal tariffs. It is done by bureaucrats, and they at times do their best to do the right thing for the municipality, which sometimes just go haywire in terms of what the consumer is actually experiencing.
Hein, we just had a question come in now from Paul de Stadler. I have a complex where in August, the City of Johannesburg billed actuals after numerous back and forth emails to the City of Joburg, and thinking it was all sorted. And now again in September 2021, the estimate is reading again. What would you say to Paul there?
This is one of the issues that sometimes crops up, and you will have to really find out from the municipality, why are they not reading the bill, or the reading, taking a proper reading and not the estimation. Your municipalities all have contractors that are doing the readings, and it can go wrong from the start, from the person that is actually taking the reading. That reading must then be given through to the municipality for the department in finance or electricity or water. It depends also where the charge is raised, and that then gets billed onto your account. And this is, as Willie said, it is not your responsibility to make sure that it is actual readings that are done, but I think it is very important that
in your interest,
you follow up what is actually happening from the municipality. Why are they estimating? I don't think that we've got a real answer for Paul at this stage, but it is something that can be investigated and should be investigated.
Yeah, I can just say, I mean, with us dealing with this extensively in the schemes where we assist, we have people like Hein that actually goes to the council, and we've built up rapport with people at the right levels. So we would not necessarily, I mean, we do start at the call center or the general center, but we have the way to take this further to higher levels and then discuss with the various departments. So it is a tedious process to actually get to that, to sort it out, and to get to the right level. But obviously, once you deal with this extensively, then you build up those relationships with those people.
Now, can we go to water? Water is also charged on a sliding scale. Water has got an interesting process in some municipalities where you get different charges depending on your use, and this is where flats and community schemes, where one must make very sure what rate are you on, what rate is the municipality actually charging you, because there are sometimes large differences in the monetary value coupled to a rate, and it is possible that you have been paying wrong rates for a number of years, or municipalities changes the rate going on. Again, here with water, the same issue with actual readings versus estimates. Some municipalities do one reading or a reading for the same property for water and electricity at the same time. Some municipalities have got different groups of people. One group reads electricity readings only, and another group reads water meters only. Your tariffs again are revised on an annual basis. And then there could be a change then also on the tariff. Meters are also at times changed by the council, and this is important to check or to keep track for yourself. What is your actual meter reading? When meters are changed, it is supposed to be changed to a meter with a 0 reading. It happens at times that meters are changed to a new meter, but that the meter reading is not on 0, and that comes with problems in terms of what your consumption will be. But we are.
Can I ask you a question? Questions come in here. Is there a maximum period that the council can continue to do estimates?
Thank you, Danielle. Council is supposed to do a monthly physical actual meter reading. And as Willie indicated, the case for this, it was a flat in a set of units in Ekurhuleni, where I think it was for a period of 6 years, where there was no actual meter reading done. And this is what happens in real life. Actually, it happens that readings are just not done. Estimations are done month after month after month for a period of years. And it ends up in an exorbitant account. It usually ends up in an exorbitant account. So
I know. I think also the maximum period, if I'm not mistaken, is a 3-month period that they are entitled to do 3 consecutive estimates, and thereafter, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, you guys are the guys that are experts in municipal law, but if I remember correctly, that is the maximum, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, there's no real allowance. They are allowed to do an estimation if a physical reading is not available, but there's not a grace period. Then always check for water leaks. That's important. Sorry, Daniela. Water that's gone through the meter, you pay for. if the leak is on your side of the municipal water meter, you will pay for that water. Municipalities are very hard on this. So this is very important. The water was not actually consumed by yourself, and we see the issues with sinkholes starting all over the area. We know that in Tshwane, the Centurion area has got a serious tendency for sinkholes. So check for water leaks, not only in terms of your consumption that's going to hit you, but also for the safety of your area that you're in. Sewage is another animal, I want to call it, that is running around in the municipal environment. Various municipalities are basing their sewage charge on different concept totally. Some charge per connection. Tshwane, Joburg for a complex, there's a basic charge per connection. Some charge on a flat rate, and others are charging connected to the water usage. The higher your water usage is, the higher your sewage charge will be. Some municipalities, when they have this charge connected to the water usage, have got the maximum consumption, so your sewage rate will then not go over that consumption. Charges, as we said, vary depending on municipalities, and we have double charging that must also be checked at that, so that we do not have an issue where a complex is being charged per individual owner together with the rates, and at the same time also that the whole complex is receiving a charge. That is something that slips through in the system.
Yeah, so when I was managing complexes, I normally, what I would ask is the trustees to give me their individual rates accounts so that I can check if there is no sewer charge and no refuse charge on the individual accounts or the owner accounts where they get their rates and taxes being charged, because that I found was something that Ekurhuleni loved to do. They were charging people sewer and refuse on the individual accounts, and then they would charge the complex that as well. So in essence, people are being double charged for the same service. So we've gone through that also many times and resolved that with the council and got them then to refund the complex or gave the complex a credit to that extent. So you're absolutely right. One needs to make sure that those things are not double charged. That's one of their favorite money-making efforts to get additional income.
Municipalities are in cash flow constraint area where they're operating in, and what is now also what we're seeing in city of Joburg is that they provide in their tariff structure, they provide for flats where you have a building with one entrance, that is the criteria, and then the different flats, they go on one rate that is based on the normal residential rate, and there's a different rate that is charged for townhouses, if we can call it that complex. And what we're seeing now is that Joburg is moving everyone to the townhouse rate, which is a higher rate, and lots of units where it's actually a flat are now getting a sewer bill that is totally exuberant. And the city is at, I want to, don't say that they are disguising it, but it happens that you get this exorbitant rate and your bill shows some credits and some debits that you really have to go and sit down and go and have an in-depth look at why actually do they come to this figure and this amount that they come to, and they want to charge that back for a 3-year period, which we also see that we have a problem with that issue. So sewage I think, especially in the city of Joburg, that is currently a problem.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The subject of payments is also something that you should closely guard and look at when you receive your monthly municipal statement. Now, it sounds a very simple thing. Check your payments. What does it mean? You have paid. Is it reflected on your account? Very important to check. And is it correctly reflected? Is the amount that you paid reflected on that specific account? There are various reasons why we would mention this, because you may find that when your complex and property is in arrears with a municipality, council would create a parent and child account. It's a concept where they would have the parent account being your current account, and the child account they would then allocate your arrears to. So when you pay on a monthly basis, they would allocate first to the child account, the arrear account, and thereafter only then to your current account. So make very sure that your payments are in fact reflected and that you are sure that they are allocated correctly. That in itself may sometimes form the subject of a dispute with the municipality, but make very sure that your hard-earned money is indeed applied to your municipal accounts correctly. When payments are made, sometimes they would not necessarily reflect on the various accounts. City of Joburg is known to issue two accounts, one for electricity, the other for water and sewer, and sometimes refuse is added to that as well, if not added to the individual owner accounts. Make very sure that your payments also reflect on all those accounts. We often find that when you pay the full amount, it is only reflected on one of the various accounts, and the other account therefore falls into arrears, which would very, very quickly cause a problem to yourself, in that the City of Joburg would then start sending messages that your account is in fact in arrears. Some other municipalities issue only one account, which assists because there's no confusion there. But with different accounts come different problems. So I would suggest, especially in the City of Joburg area, that you do look out for that.
It creates also the problem of interest, Hendrik, and
Yes.
also then penalties that they then charge. So the one account sits in credit, and then the other account is in arrears, and they charge interest on that, and they charge penalties on that. And if you actually go and calculate this interest and penalties, then at the end of the day, you don't owe them any money. So one then needs to have that resolved as well. So that is an issue that you need to then take up with them.
Quite correct, Willie. And the other problem is, obviously, when one of the accounts is in arrears, you might also find that the municipality is eager to cut off your municipal supplies of services, when in fact they were not entitled to do so. So it's very important to make sure that your accounts are up to date, number one, but also number two, that your payments are correctly reflected on the various accounts. Also, something that has cropped up is that, especially in community schemes, when you move from one managing agent to the other, make sure that your management or managing agent checks your statements and make sure that all the charges are on the statement reflected correctly. We've often found that when there is a bit of a, how shall I call it, a change in management, there is a period where the outgoing management agent and the incoming management agent might drop the ball somewhere. It is not preferable. One would always ask for a good handover period, but we have found that there is sometimes a bit of a break in managing the municipal accounts, and it's important for trustees to also look at that when that happens. I think the other
Hendrik,
thing about, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I've just read a question here, and I think you'll probably be able to answer it. So Wynand writes here, my managing agent is billing me a different, just on the topic of managing agents, my managing agent is billing me a different tariff to what the actual tariff charged by the council. Over and above, they still charge for common property electricity. After doing the investigation, the managing agent is recovering on average 20% more on electricity. Do you agree that this is unlawful for a complex to charge owners or residents more than what the actual charge is by the council?
Yeah, I can answer that. It's absolutely unlawful. You are not entitled to do that. We also see that with prepaid companies where they supply electricity and they don't have the right authority to do so, and they're also charging extra on those tariffs. So that is illegal. It is not, they're not entitled to do so. So definitely that's something that you need to take up. I mean, it's more sectional title related than municipality related. So that's why I'm jumping in. They can't, yeah, they can't do that. They're not allowed to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, one must not forget that, you know, within a highly regulated arena like the municipal arena, a municipality is a creature of statute, and it may only do what is allowed by legislation. And managing agents and trustees find themselves in a very similar position. So do not go outside of your mandate. Do not go outside of legislation, because you are venturing into dangerous and a dangerous arena. So I agree with Willie. If you're not authorized by either a decision or legislation, do not even go there. I think that deals with payments, if I'm correct. Moving on to an interesting subject that is also affecting municipal accounts, and especially the outstanding amounts on that when an account might be in arrears. That is the phenomenon of prescription. We have very specific legislation in South Africa dealing with prescription, and that is the Prescription Act number 68 of 1969, as amended from time to time, updated. And it is important to note there that all rates and taxes only prescribe after a period of 30 years. So if you have an arrear account and a big portion of that is comprising of rates and taxes, it will only prescribe after 30 years. That means that for 30 years, the municipality can still recover that money from you. So at any given time, they may institute action, and you cannot get away from that. For other services, which are not tax related or classified as taxes, therefore we mean consumer services or consumption services, as it is sometimes referred to, that arrears prescribe after a period of 3 years. So we often look at accounts and see if they are in arrears, and if the municipality has not instituted any action to collect the levies that they that are due on their account, if they have not instituted any action to collect that, that may prescribe after 3 years, meaning that you no longer would owe that. It's very important to take note of this phenomenon. It is also a problem in that different municipalities deal with it differently. We find that the bigger municipalities do acknowledge that prescription can take place on their accounts, and they would often implement steps to counter that. How they do it is, when you pay your current consumption account, they would first allocate the payment towards the arrears, and whatever is left there, they would then apply to the current account. Therefore, every time that you would pay, the prescription period starts afresh. Some smaller municipalities do not always have the knowledge, and they therefore do not even acknowledge prescription, although it is a legal principle that has been around in South Africa for way more than 100 years. It is important that you make use of this when dealing with a municipality, because it may greatly influence the outstanding amount on your account. And it's not favorable, well, it doesn't find favor with municipalities, I can tell you that from experience. But if you do point that out to them, and they do realize that they do have a problem, they will generally acknowledge, that is our experience, that there is a problem, and we try and work with the municipality to resolve problems to the benefit of our clients, and often to the benefit of the municipality itself, because it creates order within their accounts as well.
Yeah, regarding prescription, as you said, the payment of an account interrupts prescription, and prescription then starts afresh from that moment. So that is something that needs to be taken into consideration. I saw earlier on there was a question regarding an acknowledgement of debt. So an acknowledgement of debt will also interrupt prescription. So one must be slow to sign an acknowledgement of debt if you dispute the amount. But we know what they do. They threaten you that they will cut your consumption or your supply unless you sign an acknowledgement of debt. If you do that, then obviously you need to try and build in something that protects you against the interruption of prescription, and you must say that you are paying this under protest. You're paying it merely to get the account or the consumption switched on again, or the supply switched on again. So you need to try and protect yourself. We will also a little bit later on discuss the mechanism of the Municipal Systems Act, Section 102. We'll discuss that a bit, and how that can be used as a mechanism to get past prescription. So we'll have a chat about that a bit later on.
Willie, maybe just for interest sake, sewer in South Africa is also seen as part of the rates and taxes that only prescribes after 30 years. One would think that goes with the consumption services, but for some other reason, our courts has the rule that sewer will also prescribe only after 30 years sewer charges. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we often find complaints that incorrect tariffs are charged, but when we investigate the complaints, people's first question is, how do I find out what are my tariffs that are applicable to my account and my property, and where do I find those tariffs so that I can compare and actually look at my account and see what is happening there, or am I being charged the correct tariff or not? Legally, municipalities are compelled to publish and promulgate their tariffs on an annual basis when they do change that. And those tariffs must be advertised in the Government Gazette, as well as a circulating newspaper that does circulate in the municipal area. It's also reflected on their website, although I have found that there are municipalities that renege on this matter, in that they do not update their websites with all the tariffs. But it is very important that you do search for the various tariffs. If you request a municipality for tariffs, make so in writing, so that you have a paper trail, and that when you do enter into a dispute regarding a municipal account, and they have not supplied you with the correct tariffs, you can at least also use that against the municipality. They are compelled to publish the tariffs that they change on an annual basis.
Hendrik, just on that, sorry, I want to, sorry that I'm jumping in again.
No problem.
Something else that's also interesting is that these tariffs change in July every year. So it happens in the middle of the year that they change tariffs, and so sectional title complexes must be aware that in July the tariffs change. So when you see that change in your account, then you need to know that there was a change in tariff, and you need to go and investigate. So that needs to be part of your yearly checkup, that you know if you've got complexes in Ekurhuleni or Johannesburg or Pretoria or wherever, that you need to get the new tariffs and make sure that your complexes are on the correct tariffs. Also, just something else that I saw a question where tariffs are charged on a commercial basis and not where it's charged on a residential basis. So that's also something that the councils love to do. They would charge on the higher commercial tariff and put you on that tariff, and if you don't change it, they will charge you for years on the incorrect tariff. And that obviously is what Hein and Hendrik does, is to check these things and make sure that they are charged in accordance with the correct tariff for what you actually have there. And then go back to, I mean, we're building up a database of tariffs from the various big municipalities from 1994, prior to that actually, where we then have all those tariffs at hand that have changed on a yearly basis. Okay, sorry, Hendrik.
No, that's actually a good point that you raised, and it's very interesting that people normally get a bit of a shock during the winter, because the financial year of the municipalities end in June. So the first date that tariffs apply, the new and normally escalated tariffs, apply from 1 July. That is smack in the middle of winter. Your consumption of electricity is often way higher in winter, and you're now being charged higher tariffs. And that is why people then realize and start complaining, but my municipal account has gone up, and is it correct? Am I being charged the correct tariff? So you quite rightly raised that, Willie. It is a common problem. It is an annual problem, if you wish. And sometimes it's not the worst of things that can happen to people, because then they at least take notice of their account again, and it's a good time to also check there if the new tariffs are correctly applied. Because as you quite rightly say, if you don't check it and there is something wrong with your municipal account, you may end up being charged the wrong account, a higher tariff, for a number of years before you actually can resolve that problem. So act upon these things as quickly as possible. I think at this stage, ladies and gentlemen, you must realize that municipal issues, especially related to their accounts, the tariffs, and the finer nuances of that, requires a lot of knowledge and experience. And that is where the expertise of especially Confiance come in, where we can assist you regarding your payments, regarding the charging of tariffs, and the like. And it takes a number of years' experience. Managing agents and trustees alike will, I'm sure, agree with me that, you know, dealing with municipal accounts is not a simple matter. It starts off with simple principles, but it quickly becomes a rather dark matter, so to speak. We also have a matter where we are often asked, how can I change my tariff? Now, what do we mean by that? Obviously, if you're being charged incorrectly, if you're being charged on a commercial basis and not a residential basis, that's one of the things, but that's a mistake that should be rectified by the municipality. There are, however, other cases as well, where you can potentially reduce your tariff. And that specifically speaks to electrical installations. Your installation, your breaker, if you would, just to simplify that, allows you to draw electricity and utilize electricity to a certain maximum. However, we often find that that installation was done to allow for further developments on your various properties, or it is an estimate, whereas in real life you may end up using way less. So if your physical installation allows, let's say, a maximum of 150 amps, but your normal usage is not more than 100 amp, and the equipment or the various sub-installations do not require use of more than 100 amps, you may approach the municipality and ask for a reduced tariff due to the fact that you do not use that facility that is available to you. What they will then do is, if they approve your application, they will then limit your electricity supply, because this mainly happens with electricity. But if you've asked for that a reduction in the tariff, you will lose that capacity forever. You cannot later apply for it to be increased again, or they very rarely approve an application for that. Willie, I think you had some experience in that regard in the past.
Yeah, various complexes. I mean, when the developer develops these complexes, he would go for the highest amount of electricity feed that he could get for his complex. And that was done in the old days when electricity was freely available and we didn't have the problems that we have currently with Eskom. So they would apply for the highest amount of electricity, which then puts them in a different scale, which then requires a higher payment on a monthly basis, and so forth. And what we've done is we've then gone through that with the various complexes. We've gone through the correct usage of the complexes, made sure that the usage does not exceed a certain amount, and then we would then apply for the reduction of that allocation to that complex, which then allows the council to allocate that to maybe new development and so forth. Otherwise, they are not entitled to actually then just say, well, there is available electricity and there can another complex can be developed next door, or whatever the situation might be. So like you said, then once it's relinquished, then it's gone. They will rarely give that back to you. So you must make sure that your consumption will not exceed where you drop down to. And hopefully that will then place you in a different category on a different scale and will reduce the electricity tariff. But that also differs from municipality to municipality, which tariff they then would charge under those circumstances. So definitely, I mean, we've seen that, we've done that, we've gone through that process with them. So yeah.
So it is possible to reduce the municipal account for your various properties if such an opportunity does exist. I'm not saying that it does exist everywhere. I think the nature of general complaints center more around what we would term the transgressions of the municipalities, where they don't apply their own tariffs correctly. And yeah, that is the subject of discussion, which also brings us to the declaration of disputes.
Okay, so I said earlier on that we'll have a bit of a chat about the declaration of disputes. Obviously, there's no silver bullet or one single silver bullet that deals with all the problems at the municipality. I mean, we've got 11 questions already. Yes, there is a thread going through what is happening, but one will have to go and analyze each and every account that you deal with. So it is not a simple matter of this is your problem and let's sort it out and over and done with. One analyzes that, you make sure that you're on the right tariff, that your consumption is built correctly, that your payments are there, that you don't have too much of a feed to the complex. So there are various aspects that are taken into consideration when these things are done in a proper way, and in a way to actually then reduce that consumption and bring it down. And the other thing is we try and do it in a non-confrontational manner. One often finds that people get in a fighting mode with the council, and once you start with that mode, then you're going to go nowhere. They're going to stonewall you wherever they possibly can. So we try and deal with it in an amicable way, where we discuss, where we go and sit with the legal departments, with the various managers and so forth, and discuss the problems and see if we can't come to a solution. This is all done in a proper and a legal manner. I mean, we've had many complexes that Stratafin has assessed where they've had problems with electricity, where bribes were paid, underhands were paid, accounts were remedied, or so they thought. And then at the end of the financial year, that amount just comes back onto the account because it was never properly done through the right channels, with the right signatures, from the right departments, and authorized in accordance with the authority given to that person. So one must be very sure that you do things in the correct way and not in an underhanded way. That will just come back to bite you. And the attitude of the council, once they realize that underhanded stuff took place in respect of this complex, they're very slow then to want to assist you. So rather do things in a proper and a right way. So one of the ways that one can do it is if you've discussed with them and you've gone through the process with them and they are not prepared to accept that there is a problem, then you can declare a dispute in terms of Section 102 of the Municipal Systems Act. That amount that you declared on then becomes ring fenced. So that amount cannot then, they cannot cut you because that is a dispute and that dispute needs to be dealt with. If they do, a court order can be obtained against them and they will have to reconnect the complex or the person because they need to deal with that dispute, because that's the mechanism that the Act set. We're lucky to have actuaries that work for us. So sometimes we get them to work stuff out. So Hendrik will laugh. We had a matter where the water usage of this property, if that was the real usage, the amount of water would have been, I think, 2 meters high over the whole volume of the property. So the actuary actually worked out for us exactly how much water was over the property, and we then did a letter to them and we said, but it's not possible that this amount of water could have been consumed. This is the pipe size. This is the amount of water that can come through the pipe in the month. And we did the whole mathematical explanation to them. And at the end of the day, we've declared a dispute in terms of Section 102. And at this stage, they haven't cut that water. And they still need to now deal with it in terms of their mechanism. So one will follow the legal mechanism. And if then that turns to nothing, then obviously you will approach the court with a mandamus, where you will then require the court to give an order that orders the council to comply with their obligations, to remedy the account or to reconcile the account or whatever the problem might be. And if they then don't do that, then the next step would be to actually now proceed with an application for contempt of court, and where the city manager, somebody like Hendrik, would then get himself into real trouble if he then didn't sort out the problem, and he could then be imprisoned for a period if that is not sorted out. In the old days, we used to go and attach the mayor's car and the mayor's chain and the mayor's desk under those circumstances. And that also then got them to do something, but I think a mandamus is the better way these days to go. So yeah, so there is a legal mechanism that one can follow, but you need to analyze this account properly. You need to go through this. So what we have seen in the industry, because Stratafin assists body corporates that have problems, and we would assist them with finances in that regard. So we deal with this quite often. We have seen a magnitude of people that are giving services in this regard, and they're charging a percentage of what they get written off. And the general thing is they charge 25%. We had one complex that had an account of 19 million that was incorrect. And if we had to pay the 25%, it would have been in excess of R1 million that needed to be paid on an account which in any event was nonsense. It was nonsensical, and there was no basis for the council to actually charge that, and that had to be written off, and then the body corporate will have to get that money from somewhere. So we don't act, or Confiance does not work in that way. I mean, we will go and estimate. We will tell you this is how long it will take us. We will charge a professional fee, and we will have experts like Hein and Hendrik that actually will sit and go and work out and go through every aspect of the account, every year's tariffs, to make sure that it was charged in accordance with the correct tariff for that specific year, that it could not have could not have been charged on a different tariff, and that it is on the right tariff where it should be. It is on a residential and not on a commercial, and so forth and so forth. So we go through all of this, and we then sort that out. We then enter into payment negotiations, get a proper written agreement in place, get the amounts written back that needs to be written back. So yeah, so I think that is what we do on the side of Confiance, where there is a municipal account that is in arrears. Hendrik, I mean, Hein, you guys can maybe just jump in here a bit and give us an example, maybe an example of a complex that you guys have recently done.
Yes, thank you, Willie. As you correctly said, we charge on a time and material basis. So if we submit a quote to a potential client, we will show exactly what the scope of delivery in terms of the brief would be, and we would show the estimated hours that we would take to deliver a product. The product being then a solution to the problem of the municipal account, whatever it may be, and the outcome that we foresee that we can deliver. So we do not charge on a percentage. We do not feel that is correct. And yes, we have today a case study where we have saved a community scheme in Johannesburg, an approximate 1 million rand off their account. What had happened is that once again, sewage, the big problem at the moment in Joburg, that account was checked. It was found that as far back as the 2006-07 financial year, an amount in excess of 900,000 rand was overcharged on the account due to the incorrect tariff being applied. Now, right through this webinar, we've already spoken about that, but sewer seems to be a problem in the city of Joburg, and not necessarily limited to Joburg, but in general, countrywide. One must check in that regard. So what happened is we realized after some great auditing and checking, especially by Hein, that the incorrect tariff was applied over this period. The city of Joburg was approached, and we were able to then negotiate with them and had the amount written back, so that the arrears on this account was reduced by around 1 million rand. We also found that the electricity account had a huge mistake, and it took some investigation to find out why there was an overstatement of the specific account. And there was an event in the past where the city of Joburg experienced a cyber attack, which resulted in a system fault, which then automatically caused the overcharge. We were able once again to approach the city of Joburg, and they rectified the account in that regard as well. So, you know, we have a number of matters where we can say that we have successfully engaged city of Joburg specifically. We are in the process of engaging on a weekly basis other municipalities, and we find that, you know, if we base our applications and negotiations on mere fact, we take out the emotions of all this out of the equation, and we are able to then engage the officials, and where common sense prevail, I think we have been quite successful in this regard in saving our clients quite a bit of money.
Great. So that then comes to the end of the webinar, and I have seen we've got so many questions here that we just unfortunately haven't been able to get to, and they're so specific. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back. We're going to take all your questions that you've posted here today. If we haven't been able to answer them, we will answer them, and I will send out an email after the fact once all the questions have been answered, with all the answers as much as we can to your specific questions. But at this point, I'd just like to thank Hein, Hendrik, and Willie for being here today and giving us some really interesting information and insights into the municipalities. And I really hope that you all have gained something from this, and a little bit of an understanding of the municipalities and how we can potentially assist with that.
Thank you.
Great.
Good luck.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.